Did they score a small symbolic victory there?
No, no, no. This is like, Tony Romo losing to Peyton Manning last week. There's no moral victory, okay? the Republicans, they just lost. They just absolutely lost this battle. They picked a fight with a president who they underestimated.
Romney train. Will the rest of the Tea Party warm up to him? Jason.
Look, I mean, Ronald Reagan could appear in the sky like the Lion King and say Mitt Romney is my candidate, and it's not going to make the Tea Party like this guy. I mean, look.
Anything can happen.
All right, let's go to the humble Jason Johnson. JJ?
Look, this is all about ego. This is all about anger. He's like old man, like Liam Neeson, old man angry. He's just out for revenge.
What did Peggy Noonan say? The angry little attack muffin?
Exactly. Here's what's interesting. A lot of people say, well, we need to run the country's budget the same way we run our families. Well, we would never run our families the way we run this country. We wouldn't let one of our kids starve. We wouldn't pick and choose which of our children go to college. And we wouldn't only take care of part of the house. And that's what's going on right now. Members of Congress are picking and choosing which Americans get coverage from our government, which Americans are going to have safer food inspection. And that's irresponsible. And what it's going to take is for them to look at the country, not just partisanship, and realize how important these programs are. Yeah, I think we're missing the question here. Who cares if Paula Deen is a racist? The fact of the matter is she was a bad boss. I mean, if you read the charges against her, the sexual harassment that was going on, her brother was watching pornography on a laptop, sexually harassing this woman in addition to the racial comments. I think we lose sight of how this is important. It's not whether she's a bigot, it's how she ran that office.
It seems like it'll be in 2016 in general, same-sex marriage.
I think it's not going to be an issue for the Republican candidate, but they're going to have to play whack-a-mole with all the conservatives in the party who are going to say homophobic and racist things. And that's always been the challenge for a Republican nominee, not what comes out of their mouth, but what comes out of Rush Limbaugh's mouth and supporters in the party.
Interesting perspective there. Okay, guys.
Obama
Jim
himself
Crow, that doesn't make any sense one way or another. Look, this is very, very simple.
What it illustrates,
it's called
Jason,
you
is
win
that
an
it's the
election
law
and then you
isn't
can
an
make
argument.
your point. And I didn't say the law is an argument. I said that there are other strategic ways this can be done, because I'll be honest with you, they're representing the citizens in their constituencies. They're also representing the United States and holding the entire U.S. economy, putting workers on furlough, and holding the global economy on hostage because you don't like a particular policy as a violation of the oath that you take to represent this country. That's the argument here. If you do the eye test, Reince Priebus, he's sincere. He really does want the Republican Party to reach out to African Americans. He wants to do a long-term plan, hiring people within the black community to reach out and talk about what the GOP has to offer. The problem is the rest of his party outside of that room probably disagrees with almost everything he was trying to do. But he knows how they feel. That's the whole issue. There's nothing that President Obama could have said today that would have changed it. He could have been Patton, he could have been Kennedy, he could have been Reagan, he could have been Desmond Tutu. It wouldn't have mattered. So all he really needed to do today was simply say, this is why I'm going through with asking Congress to begin with. The evidence is already there. I don't really care what the Israelis say. I don't care what the British said. I didn't even care what the U.S. intelligence said. When the Arab League came out and said, we know that Assad used gas, that was enough evidence.
Man?
Not just that, because he says things like, if you forgive my gold chains, I'll forgive the iron chains. I got to thank Abraham Lincoln for freeing me. I mean, he's obviously auditioning for a role at CPAC next year. It was some of the most asinine things I've ever heard from a rapper. It sounds like a 14-year-old's Black History Month project.
Oh!
Over the line. But unfortunately, and I think this is something that Americans have to come to grips with, this is the America that we've purchased since 9/11. The U.S. Congress and the Senate and the president have allowed an aggressive expansion of executive power in the United States that allows these violations to happen. So unfortunately, what the AP suffered from isn't illegal in the United States right now. And that's the larger problem with this.
Action to that.
Well, I think it's important. We have to remember that there's a difference between the law and justice. Take, for example, an anti-abortion activist. The law is that abortion is legal, but they don't think that's justice. They don't think that's right. And so we have to remember that sort of contradiction. If I put the keys in the ignition, my engine starts, my wheels spin, but it doesn't take me to the store, that's not transportation. And justice is when the machinery of the law and our moral intentions actually combine. And so it happens all the time where we have cases where the law operates properly, but some people still don't feel it's justice. Remember remember here is his past does not in any way negate what he actually accomplished. If anything, the fact that this man served time in jail for domestic violence and abuse and apparently had some rehabilitation, had some counseling, had some training, and therefore it made him more sensitized to a situation like this, I think that's actually a success story and not something that we should be embarrassed about, and certainly not something anybody should apologize for.
Well, I posted
The answer, is that the best place to start?
No, that's kind of like saying, I want you to warn me before you punch me in the face. No, I want you to stop punching me in the face. The problem is the wiretapping, not the transparency of the wiretapping. They behaved. And one of the other reasons that we had to bring force into play is because the Syrians were getting a lot of their information on how they should behave from Iran. And Iran was basically telling Assad, they're not going to do anything. They're not. And the United States recognized that that is a problem. The Iranians have been working on a nuclear weapon for 25 years now. They'll probably take another 25 years to do it. Who knows? But it's important politically for presidents of the United States to continue to send Iran the message that if you finally get that project done, then we will have a problem with it. Well, it's not so much unprecedented levels of division, but it is a changing U.S. population. I'll give you a quick example. If you look at 2008, Obama got 97% of the black vote, 70% of the Latino vote, high 60s of the Asian American vote, and he ends up winning the election. If he had won those exact same numbers in 1988, he would have lost.
There's a lot of debate about truth within what we do, but I'm deeply concerned about the idea that we don't even, in the political world, know what counts as evidence towards an argument for truth.
Right, and sometimes we don't even have discussions of evidence. I think right now we have a lot of more face-checking than fact-checking. I mean, people want to talk about body language. They want to talk about levels of aggression. They want to talk about, did Obama seem bored? Was he thinking about his anniversary? Before anyone actually talked about whether or not the man said the truth. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. We have too much discussion of sort of the pageantry of it, and not whether or not these men were saying the truth or whether or not their truth would be applicable if they get in office.
Jason, I love that. Faith checking instead of fact checking. I'm going to come right back.